Sam Amick, The Athletic, said LeBron James would be, quote, very enthused at the possibility of the Lakers hiring Mark Jackson as head coach. I did reach out to Mark Jackson about 15 minutes ago, and I said, Lakers, question mark? And then Mark said, my phone hasn't been ringing. That was it. A non-denial. Sam Amick, the athletic reporter, joining us on the program. Explain your conversation, if you can. When did you have one with LeBron, and what came out of that?
Good morning, Dan. Always great to be with you. So he had his exit interview with the media in L.A. yesterday, 9 a.m. He wanted to get it out of the way early, which I found fascinating. Everybody else went in the afternoon. LeBron had regular life to get back to, so he jumped on Zoom. I was not there in person, so I jumped on and asked him specifically about the messiness of the Vogel firing and whether or not the lack of professionalism bothered him at all. So that was the dialogue with him yesterday. And then, like you said on the intro here, a lot more information in the column itself.
Okay, but what did he say about the professionalism of the organization, how they handled Frank Vogel?
I mean, like I wrote, so it's like, to me, and the short version was translated in my mind as I just work here. You know what I mean? Which is obviously not the case, but he kind of had a vibe about him of he went through this whole thing. It's just like, Sam, I knew when I was talking to y'all this morning, so I got up extra early so I could take my daughter to school, dropped her off at school, came down, and he went through this whole thing about his day, and he said I was 3 minutes late to talk to you guys. I apologize. He was talking to his media advisor, Adam Mendelson, on the side before jumping on Zoom. And so at the end of it, he just essentially said, you can't control how, people feel about the way you handle your business. It is what it is, essentially. And it wasn't dismissive of Frank at all. It was just another example of a LeBron kind of looking around in Lakerland and saying, I'm not going to be held accountable for all the weirdness that occasionally happens around here.
How did the name Mark Jackson come up with your conversation with LeBron?
No, that was, and you know how our jobs are. That was reporting that I will just say, was confidently gleaned that he would give a big thumbs up to Mark. That was not part of the Zoom conversation.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. That was relayed to me. I will say though, it's the politics of this league. Oh, it never ceased to amaze me. It's like there is an understandable desire from his side and his camp to they're very sensitive to the idea that he's pulling the strings with the Lakers, and I think they make some really good points. So like on the Mark Jackson front, I tried to write it as accurately and delicately as possible. He would give a big thumbs up if they hired Mark Jackson. That's not me saying he's internally pushing for Mark and saying Mark Jackson or else, because LeBron knows that the second that he does that, It becomes a story. And we all know that he did push for the Westbrook trade, and now that's partly on his unofficial kind of GM resume. So it's Mark is a guy. I mean, Mark's got a ton of superstar support in this league. And so the longer he doesn't have a head coaching job, I think this kind of noise will only get louder. But in terms of LeBron and AD and the makeup of this locker room, the way it was relayed to me is that they would react well to somebody like Mark, who could command the room and, come in with the respect of the stars and role players alike, and that LeBron's not alone. There's quite a few guys that think that would be a good fit.
Yeah, but I've always got this feeling, and I'm friends with Mark, and, we've had conversations of why he's not getting another job. It feels like the players are all in. It doesn't feel like the front office is all in with Mark Jackson. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, I would. To that point, I found it somewhat fascinating. I wrote the story. Our place published it this morning, and they found a picture of Mark Jackson talking to Rob Pelinka. And that picture in and of itself made me wonder, I don't know the exact state of that relationship, that is the sort of thing, that would matter. The backstory, though, as you know, is one that is, it's probably needs more time to be analyzed. But I mean, his Warriors exit was messy. I think that Joe Lacob and that group were frustrated with him at that time to a point where, parts of that experience stuck with him as he left in terms of his reputation. And there's other stuff too. I mean, there's the Jason Collins or Jaron Collins comments rather that are tough to get away from in today's climate. And I think everybody's made mistakes. So every candidate these days is going to have stuff to work through with the organization that they're possibly going to work with. And I will say, though, this is the first time for me in a while where you're starting to feel like the groundswell with Mark might tip a bit to where you navigate those waters and eventually see him on a sideline again.
Well, those players better be ready because Mark is a hard-nosed guy, a no-nonsense guy. I don't know if he's a player's coach, but he demands accountability.
I'll say this much quickly, though, Dan, on that front. One of the driving forces, I think, in terms of his reputation being in good shape with players now is that publicly, privately, if you go at a Steph Curry, a Draymond Green, a Klay Thompson, guys that he was obviously sharing the room with for years, they continue to speak highly of the impact he had on them and the way that he kind of set the tone for what they accomplished once he was gone. So that kind of stuff matters a great deal. And again, there's a lot of support from Mark.